Civil unrest and problems coming to a city near you. Hi, I'm Thor Sandalwood, and we're going to analyze this using astrology. Okay, guys. So, if you guys have been paying attention to the news, we're going to look at just a couple of articles first, and then I'm going to talk about the transits of what we're going to see for the month of May in particular, because I think we're going to see things heating up again in May. I was able to really take a good look at all of the transits going on for May, and guys, it looks like pretty dicey still. We're still not out of the danger zone yet. Considering everything we've been through in March and April, it's kind of like we're going to be dealing with the after effects of all this. The first article I wanted to bring up with you guys was in the USA Today, and that was just published on April 27th. And the article is Tyson Chairman Warns of Meat Shortages as Industry Faces Scrutiny for Worker Safety During Coronavirus. So I'm seeing a lot of news reports come out that the food supply, especially the meat production, is under some serious threat right now. And apparently the issue is that a lot of these workers at these meat processing facilities are getting COVID-19, hence why they're starting to shut these down. This is very scary times because I've never seen a food shortage looming over us before, especially in the United States. Now, people around the world have experienced these food shortages many times, so this is going to be new to Americans, European Union, most of the West. We're so used to this idea of this great, perfect society and everything runs very smooth. And I think right now, everything's being exposed right now of how thin the veneer of civilization really is, that it only takes a virus pandemic, which isn't as deadly as they're saying in the news. And if you guys want to take a look at my last video, there's even more videos coming out with doctors, 2 California doctors, and I'll post a link down below, explaining they're coming out and saying this virus, it infects millions but has very few deaths. Infects millions, very few deaths. So you guys should check that out too, because these doctors looked at the data and they came out and they are blasting basically the mainstream media and all the disinformation we're getting about the virus. So let's take a look. The food shortages, it's huge. 9/11 happened. There was never any threat of food shortage. 2008 financial crisis happened. Never any threat of food shortage. Guys, this right now with this virus and the panic and what it's caused with the economy and the food supply is a magnitude's order bigger than 9/11, bigger than 2008. Those things are not, after this time that we're going through, those things are going to seem like very mild, because there was never any threat of food supply shortages during those times. Okay, so again, and then we see apparently Donald Trump is preparing to use the Defense Production Act, which basically you use during times of war. I found the article on Bloomberg, says Trump to order U.S. meat plants to stay open amid pandemic. So, guys, the presidents even have to go over there and order these plants to stay open. And I read the article. Apparently, the government's going to supply the PPE gear that they need and also be directing, be in coordination with these corporations. I don't know how they're going to force people to work, but I suppose a lot of these meat plants are starting to pay more money because they got to try to bring in the labor to work these in these plants. Okay, so we're in dangerous times. So the big transit, guys, that I see happening is there's going to be 3 things mainly that I'm seeing happen in May. The first transit is on May 4th. Mars is going to be entering Aquarius. So as we know, Mars has been transiting Capricorn for quite a while now, a month or so. And so May 4th, Mars is indeed entering Aquarius. Now, if we want to think about Aquarius, Aquarius is the sign that is, the meaning is almost like the 11th house, because it's the 11th house in the natural zodiac. So the natural zodiac begins with Aries, and then 11 houses, there's Aquarius there, okay? So we take a lot of symbolism that it's the 11th house of the natural zodiac. What is the 11th house? It's the masses. It's the general population. It's big networks of people, big groups of people. It also is political rallies, political action committees. All those things are indicative of the 11th house. So I see Mars is entering the 11th house. So we know that we've been on lockdown for almost a couple months as of the posting of this video, around 5-6 weeks, going in the 2 months here. So we know that Mars is going to go into the 11th house, and what is Mars going to do? It's going to stir up things. Remember, Mars is a malefic. Mars is a very angry, fiery planet, okay? It's not a bad planet in and of itself. In a perfectly neutral view, there's no bad planet. But if we take the basic meaning of Mars is anger, war, uprising. So we see Mars is entering 11th house, Aquarius, and I believe that's where we're going to start seeing the uprisings. Now, the causes of these uprisings are going to be multifold. We have the high unemployment numbers in the United States especially. We have 26 million people unemployed. This coming Thursday, we're going to get more of the unemployment numbers. It's probably going to be another 3 million, I imagine, if the projections are right. So we might have close to 30 million unemployed people. Those people are going to be mad, even though a lot of them are not getting their unemployment checks on time. So we are in serious crap if people not getting their stimulus checks and people not getting their unemployment checks. And they're seeing shelves are not very well stocked with food, and people are very much panicked, and that's why they're doing the panic buying. Okay, so I believe starting May 4th, month of May, we're going to see more of these protests. There could be rioting, and there could be forms of violence, since Mars is violence. And Mars doesn't do good in the sign of Aquarius. Remember, Mars and Saturn are enemies, okay? Saturn rules Aquarius. Mars is exalted in Capricorn, and there's special reasons why it is. But in Aquarius, Mars is not feeling comfortable. So the type of violence, that lower consciousness violence and uprisings. So people aren't going to be happy. People are going to be going stir crazy that they've been on these lockdowns for 6 weeks, some people 8 weeks. This is when I believe we're going to start seeing states trying to open. We already see a few. I believe Georgia's kind of doing a soft opening. And that's the issue, is that even though the businesses want to start opening up, and we're probably going to see more states open up, it's going to be like the opening up process is going to be very slow. For example, they're talking about social distancing lasting for all the way they're talking about a year long of social distancing. So you have a restaurant, you're a restaurant owner, and you have 100 patrons that you're used to having there. Now you got to have it spaced out, and you only have half of the customers that you once had. So you guys do the math on that. Try to figure out how businesses are going to thrive in a social distancing type of environment, and you start to see that it's not looking too good. This is the stuff. Food shortages, high unemployment is the stuff that we can read all throughout history, all the way from the French Revolution and on forward, that this causes these kind of mass protests, uprisings, and things. So we're going to be in the maximum danger zone of uprisings, especially between the dates of May 4th and June 18th. So that's a little over a month 5 to 6 weeks there, where Mars is going to be transiting Aquarius. The next thing that is happening in the month of May is going to be Saturn is going to start going retrograde on May 11th. There are some astrologers that believe that in Vedic astrology that planets are stronger when they're retrograde. In practice, though, as I've watched a lot of these retrogrades over the years, I tend to think the planets, they do not function correctly. They're actually they're not really operating efficiently when they're going retrograde. So my position is they do not function correctly, that we usually see more disorder. The planet's it's just not being able to keep up with whatever's going on. Saturn represents government. Why does it represent government? It's the 10th house Capricorn in the natural zodiac. 10th house is really about government. Saturn's going, so we have Mars going into Aquarius, we have the civil unrest starting, and then we have Saturn going retrograde. What does that mean? My interpretation of this data is that the government's kind of floundering at this. So we're going to see a lot of indecision. Should we open? Maybe we shouldn't reopen. This state over here is opening, but this one doesn't. This one's opening, but they're opening kind of. So we're thinking there's a lot of confusion that's going to be happening with the government. We also might see the government not really knowing how to react to this unrest that they're seeing, that they're very afraid to politically move too hard on this unrest, but that, it's still unrest. So it's making the government's going to be somewhat unstable. It's not going to be the stability that you guys are used to during this retrograde period. And I mean, it's going to be retrograde for several months here. On May 14th, we see Jupiter going retrograde. So again, I mean, Saturn and Jupiter are both in Capricorn together. So Jupiter, we're losing that grace. So I think in the month of May, we're really going to see kind of just things are floundering. We're seeing unrest. Things are not really improving. We're not seeing improving. Now the actual virus might not be a big issue in May. We're seeing the numbers go down. But just these after effects of these shutdowns and everything else happening. So we're going to see a lot of disorder. And this is going to be the first time a lot of us in most of our lives have ever seen this kind of disorder. And there was a post on another YouTube video I did, and there was a poster saying, basically Americans are not used to this. I'm paraphrasing. And, that people in other countries have seen this kind of stuff happen. And I had to agree, even if they were kind of doing it in a kind of jeering way, like, now, look, you Americans are going to deal with it. But it's true. I mean, we're going to be dealing with unrest, possible food shortages. I know Trump just ordered the meat plants to stay open. But still, guys, we keep hearing about they're dumping milk, they're cracking eggs, they're potentially slaughtering a lot of these pigs and cows because apparently the food supply chains got really messed up because they were used to selling to these restaurants and these big restaurant brands, and even your mom and pop's restaurants, usually they have contracts with food distributors. That's broken down. So, I mean, it's just a big mess we're in. I mean, even if the country was to say, okay, let's just open everything tomorrow, we still have a lot of wreckage that we are dealing with. Saturn and Capricorn going retrograde, we're going to see there's kind of a loss of control there for a while. Saturn's not going to be very powerful, but I am predicting in the future that there is actually going to be more control, and it's probably going to be more draconian, actually. They are talking about trying to get us these apps on our phones of social distancing and try to warn us if we're getting in contact with somebody with the virus. And guys, I can just warn you guys right now that this is a backdoor. Once they get this app on your phone, it's a backdoor for the social credit scores. You say something online that you don't like that the government's doing, and they just switch your social credit score, and then you can't buy anything at the store. So, I mean, we're in a danger zone as far as individual liberties. And sometimes people say, hey, this sounds a little conspiratorial, but guys, I mean, we got to wake up. No one thought that we'd ever see a situation like that. I was watching a National Geographic show, and probably many of you guys have watched this show. It was called Preppers. And there were these guys that were prepping, these families, men and women, and some of them were prepping for an economic collapse. What I would hear at the end of every episode is Nat Geo would say, this is highly unlikely. There's like less than 1% chance that there would be high unemployment or that financial collapse would ever happen. And now we're seeing it, guys. In a lot of ways, these doomsday preppers were right about a lot of things. So is it paranoia anymore to see when you actually see the almost 30 million people laid off of work, the president ordering meat plants to stay open because of potential food shortages, and basically everyone being locked in their houses? So these doomsday preppers were not as crazy as a lot of the mainstream media were making it look like they were. And so these guys are going to definitely have their moment in the spotlight here. Guys, what do you guys think? Comment down below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel for more videos and more predictions. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.